And it's an honor and a privilege on behalf of M.R. Rangaswamy, myself, and all of the Indiaspora Network to welcome Assistant Secretary Donald Lu. He is the Assistant Secretary of the South and Central Asia Bureau at the U.S. Department of State. We at Indiaspora have had the pleasure of interacting with Don on several different occasions, both in person as well as live, sort of via screens like this one, on different topics. As one might imagine, the US-India relationship spans a gamut of different things. But today, Don is here to talk about shared challenges and collaborative solutions, the climate crisis through the US-India lens. So Don, we are awaiting your keynote address.
Hi, Sanjeev. Just checking if anybody can see me yet. I know my screen says still waiting for my video to load. And I must say, I'm feeling quite boring here listening to amazing speakers from Mauritius and Dar es Salaam. I'm beaming in from boring old Washington, D.C.
A city that that has a lot of importance in the climate space, Don, as you well know. So,
I'm guessing you cannot see me because that's what my screen says, but I'm just going to go forth.
We can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead, Don.
Great.
I think your video isn't on, is what my colleagues tell me who are manning the technical aspect of things. So if you don't mind turning it on your side, the video, and then we'll be able to see you. We can pin you on the main screen the moment you turn your video on.
Unfortunately, it says the speaker, the host, has stopped my video. But at any rate, let me just say my truth, and if we can get the video running, all the better. But it's mostly my words I want to share.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Oh, here we go. Amazing. So last year, nearly 180 people were killed in Sikkim as a result of flash floods. And these were caused by melting Himalayan glaciers. For me, it's a really stark example of the World Bank's prediction that over 800 million people in South Asia could face sharply diminished living conditions by 2050 as a direct result of climate change. And in India, as we know, 8 out of 10 people live in parts of India that are vulnerable to extreme climate events, such as droughts or floods or cyclones. I'm worried this is a sign of things to come, and that we in the United States, we must examine whether our actions today can still mitigate some of the worst effects of climate change around the globe. And I would argue there's no more important place in the world to consider this question than in India. Let me tell you what you already know, which is India's economy is surging. India is projected to more than double its power consumption by 2050. And the question really is whether India will be able to create sustainable economic growth in a way that is less damaging to the environment than the paths chosen by the United States or Europe or China. The answer to this question will determine whether we as a planet succeed or fail in meeting the challenge of this climate crisis. I know that Indians I talk to are counting on help from the private sector and from India's international partners to support Prime Minister Modi's ambitious target of 500 gigawatts of installed non-fossil fuel power capacity by 2030. And the United States is working together with India to support its rise as a global clean energy superpower. Many of you are joining from California. I was recently in Silicon Valley, and I had a glimpse of the future. A company called Bloom Energy is working with partners in India and around the world to create cleaner energy from a remarkable new technology. Some of you know K.R. Sridhar, a proud Indian American. K.R. used to work at NASA, and he helped design a process to convert electricity into gas to fuel future Mars missions. He later reverse engineered that same process to create electricity from gas, but without burning it. And it could be from any type of gas. It could be natural gas, it could be biogas, it could be hydrogen. The technology passes gas through a metal alloy and ceramic plates to create electricity, but I'm not a scientist, and to me, it looked a lot like magic. We have hundreds of companies around the United States that are working with Indian partners to figure out how to take technological innovations in both India and the United States and scale them up to produce clean energy that will fuel India's economic rise. For example, PowerPlug in New York is building hydrogen fuel cells that replace conventional batteries to power electric vehicles and other equipment in India and around the world. Fuel Cell Energy in Connecticut is designing and operating fuel cell power plants that harvest energy from solar and wind farms to ensure constant, reliable power day and night, winter and summer. There are also Indian companies that are leading the way on clean energy transition right here in the United States. I take the example of VSK Energy, which announced a $1.5 billion solar panel manufacturing operation in the United States that includes a major facility in Colorado. India's unprecedented efforts to expand green energy production will be propelled by technology and finance from around the world, but most importantly, from India itself. The Adani Group has announced 3 gigafactories to produce solar modules, wind turbines, and hydrogen electrolyzers as part of its $70 billion green energy initiative. Mukesh Ambani, not to be outdone, announced his vision that India will not only fulfill its own demand for power with green energy, but will also become a leading exporter of green energy around the world. His company, Reliance Industries, announced a $75 billion investment into renewable energy with the goal of ensuring that all of its worldwide operations will have net zero emissions by 2035. As India faces this enormous challenge and opportunity, I am confident that the United States will become its partner of choice. We have a great track record together. Together, Silicon Valley and Bangalore led a digital revolution that changed our world forever. Our companies have partnered together to make world-class pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and medical devices. The United States and India share a bond of being entrepreneurial people. America has led with cutting-edge research and a risk-taking startup culture. India offers tremendous scientific and human capital with its well-educated and young population. When I last worked in India about a decade ago, tech companies would often quote this statistic, which I know is still true today. The United States graduates 70,000 engineers a year. All of Europe combined, they graduate 100,000. But India graduates every year 1 million engineers. It's the sheer scale of India that ensures that it will be a powerhouse in every human endeavor. The U.S. Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm, and Indian Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, they met in Washington recently, and they declared that the U.S.-India partnership is the most important energy relationship in the world. This will be a momentous year in U.S.-India partnership also on climate change. In addition to working together on our green energy transition goals, we are poised to launch this year the most expensive and sophisticated Earth imaging satellite ever in the history of mankind. It's called the NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, or NISAR, satellite mission, and it cost both of our countries $1.5 billion. It will allow us to observe and measure some of the planet's most complex natural processes, including ecosystem disturbances, ice sheet collapse, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, and landslides. Our joint vision is that we will share this data with the world so all of us can better understand and mitigate the most serious consequences of climate change. For all of those reasons, India is our indispensable partner in fixing the planet. And for the world to be successful in combating climate change, the US and India will need to lead the way. And so again, we are proud to call India our greatest energy partner. Thanks everyone for letting me join you today.
Thank you so much, Assistant Secretary Lu. Do you have, I know we are running a little bit behind and you have a tight schedule. Do you have time for one question?
Sure, as long as it's a really hard one.
This is one of the things I love about interacting with you. Always a witty remark at the ready. So Don, here's just one question that I have upon listening to your remarks. You know, when you're a veteran, seasoned, experienced diplomat, and I know you go to India and meet with your senior counterparts in India, in the MEA there, the Ministry of External Affairs, and so on and so forth. What is their reaction like when you ask them the question about the inherent tensions between economic development and energy transition? You know, the example I often think about myself, just on a very practical basis, sort of a per capita basis, India is still a relatively poor country. And how do you explain to the person that owned a motorcycle before, that now wants to purchase a four-wheeler car, that you shouldn't do it because it's bad for the climate, right? I mean, how does one square that circle? What do the Indian officials
It's a great
tell you?
question. And really, I think for many Indians, there is a sense that, particularly in the West, that we have decided for India that India should pursue a slower growth trajectory in order that we can save the planet and not pollute the environment. That's anything but true. In fact, what we've seen now around the world is you do not have to sacrifice growth. You don't have to sacrifice really high quality and fast energy production by going after renewables. And nowhere is this more obvious, not in MEA, but with the Prime Minister's office. Prime Minister Modi is a true believer in renewable energy. You hear that from him all the time. There may be skeptics in India. He is not one of them. His pursuit of green hydrogen for India at scale is inspirational. We see nowhere else in the world where you get that sort of buy-in right from the top. So to my friends at MEA, I say, nobody wants to see India move faster than the United States. We are bought in to India's rise. India's rise is good for America, but we want it to rise in a way that is better than the way America rose. We rose on the back of coal-fired power plants, and if India does that, it will be bad for all of us. We can invest in India getting it right. Thank you, Sanjeev. Great to join all of you. What a terrific topic today.
Honored to have you here. Our pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.